Hi there. Welcome to a conversation from Springtide Research Institute. My name is Marte Aboagye. I'm the head of community engagement at Springtide. And one of the favorite parts of my job is getting to connect with our Springtide Ambassadors. We have a cohort of 20 young people spread all throughout the country from coast to coast, all different ages between ages 13 and 25. Many different backgrounds and stories represented in the 2023 SAP. That's the shorthand for the Springtide Ambassadors program. Many different folks represented in the 2023 SAP cohort. Two of them are with me in this conversation, so I want them to introduce themselves. But what we're going to be doing is sharing a few key Springtide findings, things that we've uncovered in the last few years of our qualitative and quantitative research as we look into the ways that young people are experiencing and exploring and expressing community, identity, and meaning. Those are those core themes we're always curious about when it comes to youth and young adults. So I have two really important findings, the findings that we keep coming back to over and over again because they tell us a lot about the inner and outer lives of Gen Z. So it's great to have two Gen Zers here themselves. They're young professionals in their early 20s who are going to just weigh in with their own experiences, their own stories and perspective on these two data findings. And the reason we're in this conversation tonight is because Springtide is embarking on a 3-year project that is sponsored by the Lilly Endowment, which is looking at how different faith communities, different spiritual traditions are finding ways to engage Gen Z. What's working to connect with and accompany Gen Z? We know that young people are themselves reporting to be religious and spiritual, but that self-reporting doesn't always mean that they're connected to a faith community or a spiritual tradition. And so we want to find out the places and the people and the organizations and the ways that are finding fresh and innovative ways to connect. So that's part of why we want to look back at some really important Springtide findings, get Gen Zers' take on them, basically to preview what we want to do. We want to build upon the findings we've already done in this 3-year project that we're beginning. So in the chat, even in this conversation, you'll see ways that you can connect with the research that we've already produced, as well as make sure you're connecting with Springtide so you can find out the fresh findings, the new research that we're unveiling in this 3-year project as well. So let's hear who's in the conversation with me first. I'd love for them to introduce themselves. So we have two folks, Brandon and Viva. Brandon, I'll let you go first. Tell us your name, where you're at in the country, your age, and a little bit what you do as a young professional.
Okay, hey, I'm Brandon. I'm 23 years old, and I currently am residing in Indiana, which is up in the Midwest. And I currently work for a program within Indiana Wesleyan around strengthening ministry with children, youth, and young adults.
That's why this is so perfect to have you talking in this conversation, Brandon, because I want to hear your own perspective as well as what you're hearing about from fellow students and people you work with at Indiana Wesleyan University. So delighted to have you with us sharing that perspective. Viva, tell us a little bit more about who you are, where you're coming from, what you do.
For sure. Hi, I'm Viva. I'm 21 years old. I'm in Minnesota right now. Just recently graduated from college, and I almost immediately began a job as the company manager for the Great River Shakespeare Festival in Winona.
So awesome. Like, this is a brand new job that Viva let us know she just began last week. So congrats on graduating and starting this job right out the gate. We love what you both bring to the SAP community and are honored that you're willing to share some of that perspective in this public conversation. So let's get into some of those data points. I'm gonna draw your attention first to this slide that comes from our 2021 report called The State of Religion and Young People, Navigating Uncertainty. And we release this as a flagship report every year. The State of Religion and Young People each year has a little bit of a different focus. But this one about navigating uncertainty really wanted to understand what are the ways that young people are practicing religion and spirituality, because we know that for young people, it doesn't always come from checking a box of just like, I am this, end of story. That affiliation and religious identity is more complex. And we wanted to know, what are the spiritual expressions that Gen Zers are really identifying with, to go beyond just, I am Muslim, I am Hindu, I am Christian, because this report looked at a concept called faith unbundled, and it really was about the ways that young people are often borrowing from multiple religious traditions, and sometimes the traditions they're borrowing from aren't even explicitly religious, but they're combining different elements to say, this is what spirituality is to me, this is what faith is to me. So 3 key areas that we asked young people ages 13 to 25, to what extent do you feel connected? The 3 we asked about were a higher power, all of humanity, and the natural environment. And if you look at the orange, yellow, and blue areas of these 3 pie graphs, you see that the ranges from slightly connected to moderately connected to highly connected take up the majority of these graphs, meaning that Gen Zers are saying, yeah, I feel at least slightly connected, all the way to highly connected to a higher power, to all of humanity, and to the natural environment. Those 3 markers, I think, are really important for people to see, because the common perception is, oh, Gen Z, they don't care about religion and spirituality, they're just doing their own thing. But Gen Zers themselves are telling us, no, like when it comes to religion and my spiritual expression, I really care about feeling connected to these areas. The folks who don't feel connected at all, they're 28% or less on these 3 pie graphs. So the majority really are feeling some sort of connection to these elements. Brandon, what can you tell us about your own experience, how you would fit in with these numbers? You don't have to get into the nitty-gritty of the numbers. It's more about the essence of these findings, that Gen Zers are really, their religious expression is marked by this posture of curiosity and openness. What do you see in your own life, or as well as the campus community at Indiana Wesleyan?
Yes, I deeply resonate with this research, particularly when looking at the all people aspect. So I interpret that as community, belonging to a group of people. And when I came to college, I was so excited, but I was like longing for deeper community. And yeah, talk about uncertainty. I didn't know what time to go to bed at, I didn't know I wasn't sure what I was supposed to eat, like all these things that normally are kind of regulated, not normally, but often are regulated by your caregivers. It all kind of leaves, right? And so for me, where I found the most healing and deep faith formation was around the table with friends, getting involved in weekly groups. And honestly, even thinking, as I was reflecting, thinking about around COVID, as there became a little bit more media coverage for racial attacks on Black and brown people, what really got me through that time was being around older people who are Black and brown, teaching me how to navigate these really difficult times. And honestly, I wouldn't have made it through that time without really wise, loving, caring, gentle people. And honestly, when I think about my university where I work at, we have 1,200 students or 1,100 students in small groups, and it's optional. Like it's
Wow.
optional. They don't have to go to this, but they choose to because they long to be in community. They long to belong to something bigger than themselves. So
That is huge. What the last part you said there, that young people themselves are opting in. This isn't a required activity. This isn't something they must do in order to graduate. It's that people are longing for community. So I love the way that you're seeing that data point of connecting to all of humanity, to making it not just humanity on a global scale, but making it personal with relationships. When you're able to identify those key elders and mentors during some of the racial uprisings, with the Black Lives Matter movements that were at a higher peak alongside COVID, that you're saying what got me through those times were these relationships, were these figures, and that you connect your own faith formation. I think that was the exact phrase you said, to a sense of community, to people who are coming alongside of you in your college experience and now as a young professional. I think that's massive for people to see, because a lot of times folks only look at religious attendance based on Sunday mornings or key times of the week where young people are entering a house of worship. And you're already saying, hey, in my own life, and what I see from college students is that they're looking for community. They're looking for people to do life with for their own faith formation. And it might not be always that they're crossing the threshold of a church or another religious space, but finding relationships is the nourishment for them in their questions they're asking. Like you said, navigating uncertainty. I had a lot of uncertainty in college. We know that those are huge developmental times, that we want the adults who are looking at our research to feel like they have tools to accompany young people in their questions. One of the phrases you'll see on Springtide's website is that we don't believe any young person should have to answer life's biggest questions alone. Meaning,
and all it took was taco salad.
okay, say more about taco salad.
So when I came to IWU, I joined a group, weekly, or it was a bi-weekly group, and I would go to this couple's house. They have a couple kids too, and we would just eat tacos. And I don't really like tacos, so I would just make my own little like taco salad. And it was just, we would sit around the table and ask each other how our days was. And it was also during COVID, those late nights, just talking. Those were the most formative experiences for me, was just, sitting on the couch at 1 a.m, talking
Wow.
about my biggest questions. It wasn't the pews.
That's huge. All it took was taco salad. I thought, like, that phrase is gonna stay in my head. Yeah. Folks who are willing to open up their lives, there are young people who are desiring those type of relationships, those type of figures. So that's exactly what I want to get into with the next data point. But Viva, before I do, is there anything else you want to build upon what Brandon's already shared before I have you weigh in on our next finding?
I totally agree with a lot of what he said, and a lot of his personal experiences really resonated with mine. He talked about a lot, like searching for these relationships, searching for connections, and I think that's a very definitive part of our lives right now as young people, is as we're going, finishing high school, starting college, starting our professional careers. That's really kind of what we're trying to do, is figure out where we fit in and how we want to define ourselves. And a lot of that is going to come from the communities that we form and the little connections that we make. So yeah, this idea of just like really searching for a community, searching for connections, is really something I have found to be important in my life and a lot of other people's as well.
I love that. I think the fact that Springtide is always curious about the way young people are pursuing communities is sometimes in these faith spaces, and sometimes it's just out of the box where people wouldn't consider, oh, wait, that is community, that is connection, that's on the couch at 1 a.m. finishing up taco salad, or maybe you'd moved on to dessert at that point. But like, still, coming alongside young people can take so many different shapes and take so many different expressions. So this next finding actually kind of gets at some of the characteristics of what it looks like to support and accompany young people. So let's share this next finding. It comes from our research, another State of Religion and Young People report, but this one was from the State of Religion and Young People 2020 Relational Authority. And we found this concept to be really salient for what young people are looking for in trusted adult figures. We call it relational authority because often authority in previous generations was just enough to be trusted. If you had a title, if you had accolades, therefore you're going to be seen as trustworthy and someone that you can relay your questions to, your honest experiences with. But as time changes, this isn't just true of Gen Z, this is true of multiple generational markers, that there's less trust in authority, there's less trust in institutions. And so relational authority is actually a 5-point concept of how different mentor figures can build trust. And it's by investing in relationships, what you're kind of already hearing from Brandon and from Viva. And so this concept of relational authority isn't leading with your title, leading with your accolades. It's really taking a posture of listening. And you can dig into all of that more on our website when you look at the State of Religion and Young People 2020 focused on relational authority. But these two findings, I think, are really important about who young people are listening to, who they're willing to take advice from, who they feel like, yeah, this person gets to weigh in on my life. This person gets to have an opinion that I want to listen to. So 83%, that's a huge number of young people told us that they are more likely to take advice from someone they know cares about them. So demonstrating care is the way to lead, rather than just, hey, I'm the professor, what I say goes, or I'm the pastor, what I say goes. I'm the facilitator of this group, I'm the boss. That type of posture is like, so what? Show me you care, demonstrate with actions. And I'll be more willing to take your advice because I know you're invested in me and who I am. You're coming to me without judgment or accusations. You're coming with a lot of humility in listening. Similarly, 79% of young people told us they're more likely to listen to adults in their life if they know those adults care about them. So Viva, I'd love for you to share any stories, examples you have about any mentoring figures, trusted adults who have shown you they care about you, and therefore you are more willing to listen to them. You're more likely to take their advice.
Well, for me, when I think about trusted adults or mentors in my life, the first person who always comes to my mind is my mom. I know my mom is someone she's my mom. She's just amazing. So
it's awesome to have a mom that you can say that about. I love that.
Yeah, exactly. And I think she's definitely someone who has in so many ways shown that she cares about me and that she has my best interests at heart. And when I think about, as I've gotten older and been reflecting on how we got to that point where I have such a good relationship with my mom, because I know not everyone is that lucky. I think for me, a lot of it came from she was able to show me that she cared because she was just there for me. We ended up spending a lot of time together when I was younger, when I was starting to get into middle school and high school. She was always the one driving me to my activities before I had my driver's license. And when I had, issues that would come up or exciting things that would come up, she would always just be there. She never expected me to share things beyond what I was comfortable. She didn't push me. And I think that's kind of what it was for me, is that she just showed me that she was there in so many different ways. And as I then reflect on that and how that affects my other relationships, the people that have shown me they cared are the ones who I ultimately end up spending a lot of time with because they've shown that they're available to me in whatever way I might need them. That's kind of been the defining way that I think about people I care and my trusted mentors in my life.
I love the specifics you gave there. I think one of the things you said, I might be paraphrasing, is that she didn't push you to share, that she wasn't maybe prying with a lot of questions, but she was building an atmosphere where you were like, hey, I can be real with her in these ways because she's consistently showing up for me. She's making herself available to me. She's taking advantage of those car rides or whatever those moments are, to not just see them as something else that's getting added into the calendar, the busy family life. How can this be a moment to really hone in on, to keep building that sense of connection, so that you're a young professional now who sees your mom in this light as that trusted adult figure. And like you said, not everyone is always lucky to have that connection with a parent or guardian, but she built the ground to where you're like, I'm doing my own thing as an adult, but I know I got my mom still. If there's someone I want to lean back in, is there ways that even now, starting in a new job, that you're like, hey, I know if I have an issue or a question or something I'm figuring out now, just as a fresh graduate, that I can go to her for? Like, what does she do at this stage in your life? You're past the carpooling days.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, I'm still in the same town. I'm in Winona, which is where I grew up. So I think in every day that I've finished my job, I've always gone to my parents' house and sat and had dinner with them. And I've been able to tell them everything that's going on in my day. And then this is a job that's kind of a bit more, I have to figure things out on my own. So I've had several instances already where I'm like, I'm not sure what to do. Mom, do you have any advice for me here? So she's shown that she's very wise in many ways. And even if it's an area of expertise that she's not, directly had experience with, she's someone whose judgment I trust. And I'm sure that'll continue to be the case for years and years.
I love this example. It makes me also want to highlight for anyone listening today that we have this brand new free resource that Springtide just released that's for parents, that's for families, to have ways to build connection in meaningful ways for young people. It's called Nurturing Mental Health and Gen Z. And it's really just how your home environment can be more mental health positive, more mental health friendly, and relationships and the ways you listen to the young people in your home, whether they're your kids or whether you're in an auntie uncle role, any family person could benefit from this parents handbook. It's free on our website if you go to the page that has all of our mental health resources. So Brandon, is there anything else you want to jump in and offer to build off of what Viva shared about adults who have really shown you they can be trusted based on how they listen and care?
Yeah, I just think about, I had a mentor who always used this analogy of a cloche. You know what a cloche is?
No, tell me.
Like the little glass, I don't know the term, but it's the glass piece that often goes on a small succulent. And
okay, yeah.
protects the plant from, things that it doesn't need to have, but then it also encourages active growth. And I feel like for a lot of my mentors, that's how they were in my life. That was the function they often had, is through deep listening, through curious questions. They helped me see things that were maybe unhealthy, but then also encourage active growth. So
That's great. It's kind of like this protective thing, but still like, hey, you're still doing your thing. I'm not like your shield from all the elements.
yeah.
It's ultimately for your own flourishing, your own growth.
Mhm.
Love it. Love it. Both of you have given such beautiful examples and stories. I'm thrilled that you're willing to share them. Again, I just want to underscore for anyone listening that we do have this big 3-year project that we're a few months in on right now that wants to understand, what can faith communities do? What can trusted adults do to best support and engage Gen Z in their own questions, in their own spiritual flourishing? And we're asking those questions ourselves. We're doing major studies. Some of them are focus groups, some of them are site visits, certainly big surveys with quantitative research as well as qualitative in various forms. So you want to be in on that. You can follow the link that is going to be in the description of this video recording, as well as the link that's being shared in the live conversation right now to get in on those findings, because we want, as soon as we release them, we want to make sure you all have them to start using them. Springtide never wants our research just to be merely interesting. We want it to always be highly actionable. So anything we offer is not just data points. We want to be resourcing you with ways that you can better support, better care for the youth and young adults in your own lives. So thank you again, Viva. Thank you, Brandon, for what you both shared. I so respect who you both are in the world, and I'm honored that you're part of our Springtide Ambassadors program. And any last words from y'all?
Nope.
Thank you. I really, really enjoyed this. Everyone, find out what we're doing at Springtide on our social media at We Are Springtide. That's our handle on most platforms, as well as our website, springtideresearch.org. Thanks so much.